Hello, my name is Galina Lasikova, and I am happy to greet all attendees of this online conference and thank the organizers for this event. I am going to present the work which we prepared together with my co-author, Olga Chernova. The research has started from a set of embroideries acquired by the Marjani Foundation in 2010 from the Italian private gallery belonging to Carlo Christi. The set consists of 10 objects, which most probably belong to one costume but have no accompanying information. The hips cover, the main field is embroidered with satin stitch, large images of geese or swans are neighboring with double-headed fantastic birds, and much smaller figures of ungulates, wolves, and dogs. On the belt there are circles with vortex rosettes. The embroidery must have been lined. We can suggest that it served as an upper layer of a hips cover made of felt, woolen textile, or fur. Two big flaps on the sides covered the hips, and smaller central part covered the sacrum. Such hip covers are known from the images of Uyghurs, Tanguts, and Georgians from 10th to 12th centuries. Especially interesting are images on your right wearing decorated hip covers, probably also embroidered like the one in our collection. Unfortunately, the ethnicity of these people isn't known. Suspended object of unknown function. The imagery of the embroidery repeats motifs from the hips cover, small mammals and giant bird or insect, while the fabric of the border is notable for clearly visible fragments of circles with Arabic inscriptions on a blue background. Similar circles can be seen, for example, on a robe from the Sarifani collection. Presumably, the pattern of this fabric also included birds' images, but only parts of feathers are seen now. Probably here on the lower part there was a rooster's head. Embroidered border. On the main part of the border, 4 identical animals are arranged in pairs symmetrically. The images are conventional to such a degree that they can be taken for both ungulates and predators. On the hips cover, ungulates were depicted with hooves. This means that animals without hooves here are most likely wolves. A few centimeters from the right edge, there is a seam separating a completely different pattern of animal imagery. Probably the whole body was composed of separately embroidered stripes with different patterns that don't correspond to each other. The narrow strip of fur is preserved on the lower edge of the textile. The embroidery was probably sewn onto the hem of a fur garment or garment with a fur trim. Fringe with 3 pendants. The pendants decorated the decorated pendants are attached to a silk ribbon which has the ends sewn together in a circle. On the reverse side of the ribbon there is a small piece of striped woolen fabric with red and blue stripes. Most likely the fringe was sewn to a woolen garment which had no opening. First, the embroidery repeats a motif from the central flap of the hip's cover. A giant double-headed bird plows a pair of ungulates. The handle is adorned with a blue faience bead. Tassels are decorated with amber and turquoise beads. Pair of suede boot stockings. Each stocking has 3 textile patches. At the back, above the heel, a patch of lampus featuring a floral pattern on a blue-black background. In front, on the instep, an applique filled with split-stitch embroidery of abstract design. In front, on the lower leg, there is a compound wheel semite featuring a pattern of large blue birds arranged in rows on a yellow background. Apparently, birds were standing on curved pedestals and spreading their wings. What the pattern looked like, we can imagine based on a textile preserved in the collection of the Museum of Islamic Art in Doha. While in the museum we observe the Byzantine fabric of the 7th, 9th centuries, this textile on the boots is a simplified imitation. A robe sewn of a blue silk fabric featuring gold woven design of roundels with a pair of flying geese and swans. The fabric was most likely produced in China under the Jin dynasty, which was the undisputed leader of the gold woven fabrics in the 12th, early 13th centuries. The peculiarity of this robe is the bell-shaped skirt, which was cut to the shape instead of draping as in other garments. There are no folders or tucks on it. The collar is made of a tricolor semite with images of sphinxes, presumably of Central Asian origin. All embroideries share the same color scheme: scrolls, vortex rosettes, flying birds, ungulates, and walls are repeated in designs. At the same time, there are some differences in embroidery technique on different objects. The embroidery on the of the hip's cover is distinguished for the most intricate design and technique. Undoubtedly, the hip's cover was the most prestigious and expensive item in the entire set. Many of the embroidered motifs are similar to images found in the art of the nomads of Eurasia of the first millennium Common Era. The dating is possible on the base of the textiles used in this set. Fabrics with Islamic, Chinese, and Central Asian ornaments are easily recognizable. There is a traditional Chinese damask, probably produced in the Liao state, Jin gold woven textile, Central Asian samites of 10th, 11th centuries, lampuses which are close to the group of buids and Seljuk fabrics from 11th, 12th centuries raid, and the compound wheel featuring roundels with Arabic inscriptions on the other imitations. The design widespread almost everywhere in the Islamic world. The complex can be dated to the 12th century, but textile pieces from an earlier time, about 1 year older, were used in it. This was probably a secondary use. Carbon 14 texts confirm the dating to 11th, 13th centuries. Only one similar set excavated by official archaeology is known to our days. It includes a hip's collar worn above a coat and suede boot stockings. The objects belong to a costume of a mummified nomad man found in Saidam area of Qinghai province in China in 1958. This unique find is still little studied, so I will provide detailed information. In winter 1958, a well-preserved mummified body of a man was found inside an area at Qinghai, not far from the Nomphon Lake. The corpse was wrapped in a felt and buried in a dry sand. For this reason, the body has dried and naturally mummified. All accompanying organics was well preserved. The body found in Saigon has been kept in the City Museum of Xining and then in the Qinghai Province Museum, also in the same time. Unfortunately, no photos taken after 1958 were published. Only two black and white photographies taken immediately after finding were published, as well as descriptions and memoirs of Chinese archaeologists. Recently, Mongolian archaeologists Lambayar of the Nubat and Cherchimbakar compiled all available information in Chinese language, translated it into Mongolian, and published. Our information is taken from their article. It is known that the deceased was a middle-aged, bearded man. He had a deep wound on his chest or neck, tied with a piece of cloth. Apparently, he died from this wound. He was dressed in a fur coat covered with a cotton silk textile, a fur hat with spinel of red feathers, a felted hips cover, a belt ornate with jade plugs, and high boots. A saddle, stirrups, and horse tail, a leg of a lamb, a bow, a quiver of ornamented beech bark, and 11 arrows of various length and arrowheads shape accompanied the body. Initially, the man was identified with the Mongol commander of the Yuan Time, who died on the battlefield. However, Mikhail Garilev suggested another attribution. Basing on the quiver's shape, he dated the burial to the 12th century. At that time, Qinghai was mainly inhabited by Tanguts and Uyghurs, but the most western tribes of Tatars had also been roaming there, as well as the Mongol-speaking tribes. Mikhail Garilev defined the mummified body as a Mongolian Naiman, a Western Tatar aristocrat in winter vestments. The proposed dating coincides with the dating of our complex. We could not find other analogies to the embroideries in the scientific literature or museum collections. Meanwhile, one European antique gallery possessed two embroidered covers identical in style and clearly belonging to the same cultural tradition. One of them features embroidered images of flying geese or swans, almost identical to the images on the hips cover. On the other, clawed panthers, horned goats, and small feller deer are repeated in the pattern. The color scheme of this embroidery exactly matches to the set from the margin foundation. Both covers have the same shape. Four-petaled embroidered medallion occupies the center of a square field with a side about 45 centimeters. A pair of silk strings are attached in the center of the medallion. Other covers of the same shape are known. However, instead of embroidery in the central medallion, they have an applique made of patterned compound twill or samite. In antiquarian circles, these items are called face covers, implying their specific use in the funeral rite. This interpretation raises doubts, since the ties sewn in their centers are badly worn out or torn in some covers. It is unlikely that such damage resulted from single use during the funeral ceremony. Possibly, the covers used in the burials had a different function during a person's life. This cover from the collection of the Museum of Islamic Art belongs to a burial complex, which also includes a robe and a hat. According to an antiquarian legend, the set was discovered in 1964 and spent a long time in Nepal. Then it was transferred to a collector from Hong Kong who has sold the objects to Mia in 2013. Comparing the museum head with the photograph of the Cheetah mummy, the similarity in shape is evident. In the photo, we can distinguish a crown-shaped head, rounded at the top. Its ear flaps and visors are trimmed with the fur. The description also mentions a red plume, invisible in the photo. The robe and the fur hat can be associated with a number of costumes from antique galleries and private collections. The shape of the robe, with a flared hem, formed by the figural cut of the fabric, is similar to the silhouettes of the robe accompanying the embroideries of the Margini Foundation collection, as well as of several other robes recently appeared at London auctions and galleries. Two of these robes were acquired for the Museum of Islamic Art. The robes may differ in the presence or absence of fur collar and cuffs and in the shape of collar, but it is noteworthy that in both robes with fur collar there is a thick braid of dark hair under the fur. It served as feeler keeping the shape of collar. Are they human or horse hair? One more burial set comprising a robe of Liao dynasty, Semite, and a felt hat trimmed with fur and adorned with red feathers was auctioned by Sotheby's in 2013 and then published by the Simon Ray Gallery. Finally, an important object is a robe auctioned by Bonhams in 2008. The inscription woven on the chest of the robe states that the fabric was produced in Pucha, specially for a robe. Since most of the garments were sewn of fabrics with evident Islamic patterns, they are generally named Seljuk robes. Some researchers widely define them as the robes of the Turks of Western Asia, Central Asia, and Eastern Turkestan. However, it's important that no one burial with such garments was found in the main territory of the former Seljuk Empire. The close analogy to these garments was found in a burial during the excavations of 1957 at the Alar Cemetery in Charklik, Bayangol district of Sinzan. The Alar complex consists of a robe similar to Seljuk robes and a felt hat of a specific design absolutely identical to the headwear from the Catherine Museum, but without plume or any fur on the top. The Charklik area is famous for numerous finds of well-preserved natural mummies of ancient times. The ancient city Lulan was located in the area. However, little is known about this place in the 11th or 12th centuries. In the 11th century, East Turkestan became part of the realm of the Turkic Islamized dynasty, the Karahanis, who recognized themselves as vassals of the Seljuk Islamic Empire and at the same time of the Uyghur state of Karahitai. Khatan, with its own ruler, was considered the last Karahanid outpost in the east, and Charklik stood at the very edge of the nominally Islamic world, but was much closer to the Uyghur towns Beshbalik and Karahojo. It is noteworthy that the archaeologically documented finds Charklik at the southeastern end of the Taklamakan Desert and the Namphon Lake in Shanghai are several hundred kilometers apart from each other and located on the same branch of the Silk Road that runs from Cherklik through the Altentag Mountains to Qinghai and further east. The importance of this route direction previously underestimated by scientists, but recently it was stressed by Chinese and Japanese archaeologists. In 1020s, Caesar state captured Uyghur cities in Gansu and cut off communications on the main line of the Silk Road between Khatan and the Song Empire. The active exchange of embassies between Pharaohs and Song Empire renewed from 1081 onwards, bypassing Caesar's state through Qinghai. It can be assumed that the warrior buried inside an area came there with a caravan from the Cherklik region. Finally, we note one more unique object which was acquired for the collection of the Marjani Foundation separately from the embroideries, but from the same Carlo Christie's gallery. This is a felted bag decorated with applique work of multicolored felt and embroidery. As we could understand, the felt was a popular material among the nomads of this group. This object shares with the embroidery similar design and color scheme. Especially noteworthy is a large 4 petals medallion filled with pearls. It's very similar to the medallion on one of the embroidered covers from a private collection. Thus, the entire groups of related objects includes high felt hats trimmed with fur and silk fabrics and adorned with feathers, silk robes with a flared hem formed by the figural cut of the fabric. Some of them have a specific fur collar padded with braided hair. Square covers with embroidered or applied 4 petals medallions and ties in the center. 3 flaps hips covers of felt fur or leather decorated with embroideries. Suede boot stockings decorated with embroidery and applique of silk textile fragments. The group is distinguished by a variety of materials. Silk textiles from Yao, Jin, Song empires, from Central Asia, Pharaohid and probably Ghaznavid states, from western areas of Islamic world. Silk thread satin stitch embroideries in the animal style belonging to the nomadic traditions of the Eurasian steppes, woolen fabrics, felt objects with masterly applique technique, furs, hair used as filler underfurs, feathers. Images of birds prevail in the patterns of both fabrics and embroidery. This fact may be the key for ethnicity identification. In this research, we focused on identification of materials of animal nature, hoping that they can reveal some details about the owners of the garments. Objects from 2 collections have been studied, the Marjani Foundation and the Museum of Islamic Art, Doha. Biological expertise has been performed by my co-author, Dr. Olga Chernova. Samples for examination from mere collection were provided by the Museum Textile Conservator Tatiana Zhdanova, and we thank her for the collaboration. 6 objects were examined. Felt bag, we analyzed the main material of the bag, dark brown felt, white woolen threads of embroidery decorating the back of the bag, red thread from a braided cord attached to a bag, red and dark brown tassels of the same cord. Fragment of a woolen textile sewn to the fringe with embroideries. Threads of warp and weft were taken. Embroidered border trimmed with fur. So we took an example of fur. Robe with fur collar and cuffs from the collection of the Museum of Islamic Art. The collar is sewn of 3 types of fur. Collar lapel is made of striped fur, which is trimmed with light brown fur, while the back side of the collar is of light long hair fur. The collar is padded with a braid of black hair. Samples of 3 types of fur from the collar were taken for examination, as well as hair of the padding and fur from the cuff. In total, 5 samples. A robe with fur collar and cuffs. We tested fur from the collar and the cuff and hair padding. All in all, 3 samples. Hat. The analysis was performed for the light yellowish felt of the base, spotted fur on the top of the hat, brown fur lining, wool padding laying between the felt and fur lining, and feathers. Now look at the results of our identification. Felt is identified as fine fleece domestic goat. White threads of embroidery is coarse wool domestic sheep. Red thread from a cord taken from semi-coarse wool domestic sheep. Ginger tassel is domestic horse hair, and dark brown tassel is from coarse wool domestic goat. In the textile, white warps belong to coarse wool domestic sheep. Red wefts are from semi-coarse wool domestic sheep. Embroidered border was trimmed with fur of semi-fine fleece domestic sheep. In the collar, the striped fur belonged to Turanian tiger. Light brown fur is ermine. Light long hair fur is semi-fine fleece domestic sheep, and hair padding taken from a tail of wild or domestic horse. Fur on the cuff is also ermine, but from belly. Here the fur on the collar is sable. Hair padding again wild or domestic horse hair, but from the mane. And again, on the cuff, sable fur, but taken from a belly. Head was made of felt, which is of semi-fine fleece domestic sheep. Spotted fur is cheetah. Brown fur lining sable, and feathers belong to domestic chicken or turkey, were taken from a tail, while padding is mixture of coarse wool domestic of different sheeps with coarse wool. Among 21 samples examined, 10 belong to various breeds of domestic goats and sheep. The variety of breeds is noteworthy. Semi-fine fleece sheep, semi-coarse wool sheep, coarse wool sheep, fine fleece downy goats, and coarse wool goats. The felt badge shows that different types of wool were intended for different parts of the object. Sheep and goats with finest wool and downy served for felts, and fur trimming of prestigious silk robes. The downy of fine fleece goats in the dark felt of the back points to the fact that the region of origin of the objects borders on Tibet, the homeland of the Pashmina goats, famous for their downy since ancient times. Threads for weaving, most probably the home-woven fabrics, and embroidery, were spun from semi-coarse and coarse sheep wool. The rest of the coarse wool yarn from different sources was mixed and used for padding. The other material for padding and tassels was horsehair, the sign of nomadic life. Both a tail and mane were taken from the horse. It's known a lot about the importance of the horse in different nomadic cultures. In relevance to this group, we remind that among the objects accompanying the burial of the Tsaidan mummy were a saddle, stirrups, and a horse tail. Furs of wild animals are represented by felines and mustelids. Sable and ermine were items of the fur trade between the north and the south of Eurasia. An expensive commodity on par with silk fabrics. These furs were repeatedly mentioned in the lists of gifts exchanged between Islamic and Chinese rulers. For example, furs of sables, ermines, foxes, and squirrels were listed as gifts from the Karakhanids to Sultan Mahmud Ghaznavi. The so-called fur road crossed with the Silk Road in Central Asia at the Karakhanid realm. The Karakhanids received furs from the north from Kharazm and Volga, Bulgaria, and sent them further to the west of Islamic lands or to the east along the Silk Road leading to China. Baltic amber, which was especially highly valued in the Liao Empire, reached China by the same way. Not only textiles, but also prestigious furs and gemstones served as payment for the peoples through whose territory trade caravans passed. We can judge about the value of sable and ermine from the manner in which they were used in the garments. The main parts of the skins were used for the hat and collars, while the cuffs in both analyzed works were made from the less fluffy remains taken from the beasts' bellies. Our examination confirmed the authenticity of all parts made of sable fur and explained the difference in their state of preservation. Looking worse, cuffs are made of less valuable parts of the skin. The collar of one near robes is decorated with the fur of Turanian tiger. This species is extinct by now, but in those times it was widespread in the Caucasus and Central Asia, including East Turkestan. Turkic people called it Junibars, roaming tiger. Most probably a fur of local beast was taken. Apparently, tiger fur was quite common in the costume of this ethnic group. The fur coat of the Tsaidan mummy also was bordered with tiger fur. Unlike the robe that was previously in the Carlo Christi's gallery, the fur of a tiger in a costume could speak of various courage. From that period, we can remember Rustam, the hero of Shahnameh, dressed in a tiger skin kaftan, and Tariel, the knight in the panther's skin, from the Georgian poem by Shota Rustaveli. Cheetahs, unlike tigers, have never lived in East Turkestan, inhabiting Africa, West Asia, and India. However, the cheetah fur identified in the head from Mia is not unique. received on the head from Simon Ray Gallery. We could not find information that the furs of cheetahs were a significant commodity in the international trade. However, tame cheetahs were widely used for hunting throughout Asia, including China. They were already used as hunting animals by the Tang emperors. Since cheetahs don't breed in captivity, their juveniles were caught in their habitats, tamed, and then could be sent from Western Asia to China. The transportation of live animals along the caravan routes was especially difficult. So in China, the cheetah was considered as an important gift. Perhaps the nomads of East Turkestan got the skins of the animals that died during the transportation, probably due to their rarity relatively to tiger skins. Cheetah furs were used in the most visible place, on headgears. Finally, the last type of animal materials analyzed in our research was feathers from the top of the head. Birds had a special meaning for this ethnic group. We can judge about it from the choice of textiles, where images of birds were preferred above all other imagery. The same is relevant to embroideries. The plume could have a special symbolic meaning, as, for example, among the Mongols. Feathers on the male head are preserved in astonishing condition. They have no traces of worn or damage and look like new. Unfortunately, based on the results of the examination, a firm conclusion about their age and authenticity is not possible. However, the presence of a very similar red feathers on the head from the Simon Ray Gallery, as well as in the description of the Xaidam mummy, speaks in favor of their authenticity. According to the study, these feathers were plucked from the tail of a large domestic chicken or turkey and then dyed red with a textile dye. This is an unexpected choice for nomads who depicted geese, swans, and birds of prey on their embroideries. In the area of Lopnor Lake, there were places for hunting water birds, so why didn't they take the feathers from a wild bird? The Mongols, for example, are known to have decorated their heads with owls and herons' feathers. On the other hand, domestic chickens or turkeys are common for the sedentary population, but they are a rare wonder for nomads, especially the feathers dyed in a bright color that could not be obtained in the surrounding nature. The vibrant colors of tropical birds have also been the subject of international exchange. Probably the dyed chicken feathers imitated the tropical ones, being prestigious imported good. Such an imitation could be done both in the east or in the west end of the Silk Road. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you will have some question about our work.